Let me tell you about one of the most fascinating thought experiments in philosophy of science, the Raven paradox, also known as Hempel's paradox. Imagine you're an ornithologist trying to prove the hypothesis that all ravens are black. Naturally, every black raven you observe seems to support your claim. But here's where things get strange. According to formal logic, every green apple you see also supports this hypothesis about ravens. How can this be? That's the paradox German philosopher Carl Gustav Hempel identified in 1945, and it reveals some profound insights about the nature of evidence and scientific reasoning. The paradox arises from a simple logical equivalence. The statement, all ravens are black, is logically identical to its contrapositive. If something is not black, then it is not a raven. In formal terms, both can be represented as, for all x, if x is a raven, then x is black. Now, in classical logic, observations confirm a hypothesis if they are consistent with it. A black raven clearly confirms the original statement. But here's the twist. Any non-black non-raven, like our green apple, a white shoe, or a red car, confirms the contrapositive statement, and therefore must also confirm the original hypothesis. This conclusion feels deeply counterintuitive. After all, what does my green apple have to do with ravens? The problem lies in how we interpret confirmation. While technically correct within formal logic, this interpretation violates our common sense understanding of evidence. In real scientific practice, we expect evidence to be relevant. Observing thousands of apples tells us nothing new about ravens, even if it's logically consistent with our hypothesis. This reveals a crucial gap between pure logic and practical scientific reasoning. The Raven paradox challenges fundamental assumptions about confirmation in science. It suggests that if we take logical confirmation too literally, virtually anything could count as evidence for most hypotheses. This would make scientific reasoning trivial and meaningless. Philosophers have proposed several solutions. Some, like Karl Popper, argued we should focus on falsification rather than confirmation. Others developed Bayesian approaches where evidence is weighted by relevance and prior probability. The paradox ultimately teaches us that meaningful scientific evidence requires more than just logical consistency. It needs genuine relevance and explanatory power. The Raven paradox isn't just an abstract puzzle. It forces us to think carefully about what counts as good evidence in science and in life. While a green apple might technically satisfy a logical condition, real understanding comes from seeking genuinely relevant and meaningful evidence. In our age of information overload, the paradox reminds us that not all data points are equally valuable, and true knowledge requires discernment about what truly matters. This is why, more than 75 years after Hempel first described it, the Raven paradox continues to challenge and enlighten thinkers across philosophy, science, and data analysis. It reveals how careful we must be when moving between abstract logic and real-world reasoning. Imagine you're standing before two boxes. Box A is transparent and contains 10,000 or nothing at all. A mysterious predictor, who has never been wrong before, has already decided the contents of Box B based on their forecast of your choice. Here's the catch. If the predictor foresaw you taking only Box B, they put $1,000 inside it. If they predicted you'd take both boxes, they left Box B empty. Do you take both boxes to guarantee at least 1,000? Or do you take only Box B, trusting the predictor's infallible foresight? This is Newcomb's paradox, a thought experiment that pits free will against determinism and has divided philosophers for decades. The paradox, formulated by physicist William Newcomb and popularized by philosopher Robert Nozick, forces us to choose between two logical but contradictory strategies. The one-box argument, causal decision theory. The predictor has already made their decision. If you take only Box B, they must have predicted this and put 1,000 inside. Taking both boxes would mean they foresaw your greed, leaving Box B empty, so you'd only get $1,000. Conclusion. Take only Box B to maximize expected gain. The two-box argument, evidential decision theory. The money is already in or not in Box B. Your choice now can't change the past. Taking both boxes guarantees $1,000 more than you'd get from Box B alone. Conclusion. Take both boxes to avoid regret. Both arguments seem flawless, yet they lead to opposite conclusions. The paradox exposes a deep conflict in how we reason about choice and causality. If you believe in free will, the two-box strategy seems rational. Your decision now shouldn't affect the predictor's past action. If you accept determinism or perfect prediction, one boxing is the only way to cause the $1,000 to exist. It's like a cosmic test. Are you the type of person who trusts the system, one boxer, or defies it, two boxer? The paradox reveals that our intuition about rational choice depends entirely on whether we believe the future can retroactively influence the past. Newcomb's paradox isn't just a puzzle, it challenges fundamental ideas in philosophy, game theory, and even AI. Determinism versus free will. If the predictor exists, does true free will, or are choices illusions, time and causality? Can a prediction today lock in an event in the past? Quantum mechanics even hints at retrocausality. AI alignment. How should a superintelligent AI reason if it faces a Newcomb-like dilemma? Philosophers like Nozick argued there's no right answer. The paradox forces us to confront our core beliefs about agency and reality. Some try to dissolve the paradox by rejecting its premises. The predictor is impossible. Perfect prediction contradicts free will. The setup is incoherent. If you can outwit the predictor, their power collapses. But if we accept the scenario as given, the paradox remains a profound litmus test for your worldview. Newcomb's paradox teaches us that rationality isn't absolute. It depends on hidden assumptions about time, causality, and the nature of choice. Whether you're a one-boxer or two-boxer says less about logic and more about how you see the universe, as predictable and interconnected or open and chaotic. In the end, the boxes aren't just holding money, they're holding a mirror to how we think. We live with a strange contradiction every day. We pamper our dogs, cry when animals suffer in movies, and condemn cruelty to wildlife. Yet most of us regularly eat meat without a second thought. This is the meat paradox, the psychological tension between loving animals and consuming them. Why does this happen, and what does it reveal about human nature? Our minds have developed clever ways to resolve this discomfort. First, we mentally separate food animals from other creatures. Cows or livestock, not friends like dogs. We use different language too. We eat beef, not cow, pork, not pig. Studies show that when people are reminded that meat comes from animals, they temporarily eat less of it. We also tell ourselves comforting stories. These animals were bred for food, or they don't feel pain like we do. Some claim it's natural, though we reject many other natural behaviors. These mental tricks help us maintain our self-image as kind people while participating in something that requires animal suffering. The average child can identify hundreds of corporate logos, but can't picture how a chicken becomes nuggets. Our culture celebrates cute farm animals in children's books while serving them for lunch. This disconnect is reinforced by traditions, family habits, and advertising that shows happy cows on green pastures rather than factory farm realities. We're taught from childhood that some animals are friends and others are food, with no logical distinction between them. The paradox forces uncomfortable questions. If we wouldn't personally kill the animals we eat, is it ethical to pay others to do it? How can we claim to care about animals while supporting industries that cause them suffering? Some argue that as long as we need to eat, this is unavoidable. But with modern plant-based alternatives, is that still true? Interestingly, most people agree that factory farming is cruel, yet few change their diets. This belief-action gap shows how powerful our psychological defenses are. When confronted with the paradox, we tend to avoid thinking about it rather than change our behavior. Recognizing this paradox isn't about guilt, but about awareness. Some respond by going vegetarian, others by choosing more ethical meat sources, and many by continuing as before, but with more conscious reflection. New technologies like lab-grown meat may one day resolve the dilemma entirely. The meat paradox ultimately holds up a mirror to human nature, our capacity for compassion, our tendency for self-deception, and our struggle to align our actions with our values. It asks us, How do we want to relate to the other creatures sharing our world? Next time you pet a dog while eating a burger, pause for a moment. That discomfort you might feel, that's the meat paradox. And how we each choose to live with it says much about who we are, not just as consumers, but as thinking, feeling human beings.